Please welcome Lionel Coleman here.
We had a saying at Nike that complacency is a killer. And if you're not innovating, you're dying. They're rehearsing and I'm just going, oh my God, I think I'm in trouble here. And I gave them a little bit of business to do, and that just sort of started sinking the Titanic. So
Oh gosh.
when your name is at the top of the thing directed by, you're the one that carries the weight of that.
So many great moments you're going to see in the interview with Lionel Coleman. He's one of the busiest directors in Hollywood right now, directing CBS dramas nonstop. The great thing was the students got to actually work with him and get directed by somebody who's on the front lines. It was a magnificent night. Before we do that, please hit like, subscribe, and comment on these videos. We love hearing from you. But now, let's hear from Lionel Coleman. All right, everybody. Welcome back. So excited to have our guest today. This is a beautiful surprise, and I've been trying to get him for a while, and he's so busy, but it's a great thing. Back in 2022, can't believe it was that long ago.
Doesn't seem like it.
I know. I had an audition for NCIS that I sent in, and then I did the call back, by Zoom, and that was great. But I hadn't really met the director, but then I get on the set, and he comes up, and sometimes just people walk in and you're like, wow, this guy is present, this guy's got life to him, and so supportive. And right away, we talked about, the character and everything.
Backstory, yeah.
He actually had ideas on the backstory, which was great. And then I told him what I had, and he's like, oh yeah, that's great, let's go with that.
Yeah, it's a great fusion. Oftentimes you have actors who, they don't come as prepared. We were very, very lucky with Gregg, and he does not remember this, but we tried to cast him I was doing a film for a theme park ride at Universal, The Men in Black.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and Will Smith was going to be a part of it. Rip Torn was a part of it. I worked with him. Anyway, Gregg, we were like, oh yeah, we love him. Universal loved him. And then he got booked, so we had to go with another guy.
Wow, I remember trying out for that, though. Yeah. Well, thankfully, I got to work with you on NCIS, and it was such a great week. We just had a great time. And you were a last-minute addition for
I
that
was,
as
yeah.
well.
That was a very lucky thing for me when you work on a legacy show like that. I think they're going into their 24th season. They tend to have directors who they're part of the stable. I was super, super lucky to get in. I became friends with an executive at CBS, a guy named Michael Kaplan. And Michael had told me, I was working on NCIS Hawaii, and he sends me a text. He goes, hey, did you ever call up the folks at NCIS yet to set up a meeting? And I said, no, not yet. My agents, haven't called up. And I was with an agent at the time who, she's like, if you're going to meet with the showrunner, you might as well forget it because he doesn't do the hiring. There's another guy at the time, Mark Horowitz, who does the hiring for directors, so it's going to be a waste of time, so she never called. Somewhere in this, I met a new manager. First thing he did was fire my agent. Then I got a new agent, and when I texted him, I said, hey, Michael Kaplan saying call NCIS. Boom, on it. So I had a meeting within 2 days after that, and I thought I was just going to be meeting with the showrunner, a guy named Stephen Binder, but on with Stephen for a little bit, and then on comes Mark Horowitz. And I'm like, oh shit, this is serious now, this is the guy. And we're talking, and they said, well, this is great, what are you doing in October?
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm available. So I was supposed to start in October, but a director who's supposed to be doing the episode before me got COVID. This was during that whole madness. And she couldn't do the show. So they literally called me Wednesday night at 8:30. And I don't live down here full time. So I was in Oregon at the time. And they're like, hey, is there a world that you can start tomorrow? I was like, I didn't tell him this. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do it. So hung up, booked the flight. I had to land, go get tested for COVID in Hollywood somewhere, and then drive immediately out to Santa Clarita, and I don't even know, I think I read the script for the first time on the plane ride down.
Wow.
Like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But that was the episode that Gregg and I reunited with, and I'm sure you guys have seen some of his work before. Fucking amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And he's like Mr. Humble here in front of you all, but when he gets on set, we were shooting this scene, and his bottom lip was quivering. It was like kind of Ed Norton-esque, you know, how he was behaving, you know, sort of these little physical traits that he was doing. And I was looking at Scott Williams, who wrote the episode, and he's an executive producer on the show, and we're like, holy shit, this guy's fucking creepy. And then he would come out, and he would kind of still be there, you know, so you couldn't like really come up and totally say anything that was going to really delve in. And we were, you know, I'd just be like, that was fucking great. And you're like, oh yeah, thanks. And it would just sort of, you know, go somewhere. And then we just realized, okay, you know, we're just going to let him, yeah, you know, go and do your thing. But when he is in that character, it is something else. Wow. Something else to watch.
Admiral, NCIS, at your service.
And as a director, what we always like, because we get hired back, like, I don't know what the assumption is here with us directors, but we're only as good as our last episode. And if we hire an actor who fucks it up for us, and I did hire a guy like that, and I hired him based on the casting director, but he said, oh, this guy's auditioned for us so many times. You know, I think he'd be good for this. And he fucked me over big time. He didn't know his line, so that was number one.
Wow.
So we go out, we're talking backstory with him, and, you know, he's like, man, I got to tell you, this is a lot of words.
A lot of words. Nice. Wow.
Like, I don't know, but as an actor, I would love to have
Exactly, yeah.
that, right? Anyway, they're rehearsing, and I'm just going, oh my God, you know, I think I'm in trouble here. And I gave him a little bit of business to do, and that just sort of started sinking the Titanic. So,
oh, gosh.
what we realized was, like I said, okay, I'm going to have to just shoot around this guy.
Wow.
You know, and most of the coverage is going to be either behind him or on the scene partner who he was in the scene with. And he ended up putting us about 2.5 hours behind.
Oof, wow.
And when your name is at the top of the thing, directed by, you're the one that carries the weight of that.
Yeah.
So first AD comes to me and he says, hey, you know, we're 2.5 hours behind. There's no way we're going to finish the work that we had lined up for today. So I'm punting that. I called up this other actor, and we're going to shoot this other scene that we're supposed to do tomorrow. So it just caused this whole ripple. And so you have a guy that doesn't know his lines, number one, and then number two, it's just a bad performance, you know? And showrunners look at your episode, and it's not like they want to hear, well, you know, this actor gave him problems. It's like, well, the director cast him, right?
So who hired him?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. So what we look for always is, I always want to find the best actors, number one. And I hate the fact that we have to do this over Zoom now. It used to be in a room, which was great, because then I can say, oh, stop it right there. Try this instead.
Yeah.
And you can get this immediacy. You know, now we're really dependent upon you and a decision that you will make, you know, to do that. And it sucks, and I hate that. But that's the world that we're living in now, and that adjustment that we all have to make, you know, it is what it is. But I think in our last Directors Guild of America contract, if I see someone that I think is, you know, but I want to see him, you know, doing a Zoom that's, you know, live, I can request that. So, which is great. But we want the person who comes in and they know their shit. Have a point of view, really, a direction that you want to go in. But Scott Bakula who I worked with a while back. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that actor. Yeah. Knows his shit, man. I mean, he's just like uber prepared and professional. And there was an actor, a young actor, who was doing a scene with him. It's supposed to be his son, and the actor had just made this decision. Like, I'm going to say it this way. I'm going to yell at him. I'm going to, be argumentative the whole time. And it forced Scott into a corner because you can't have two people that are here.
Yeah.
So he's having to kind of be here all the time. And then finally he comes to me and he says, hey, you got to do something with this kid, man. He's like yelling at me and screaming, and there's no place for me to go. I mean, maybe he throws this line away or something like that. And the more we directed him, the more it was evident and clear that he had made this decision in his mind, and he was staying there. And one of the great things about Gregg, I mean, he had a direction that was perfect, but I would come in and give him a note, and he'd be deadpan, kind of in his zone, and he'd say, okay. And then we would go, and it's like, holy shit, he's taken my lemons and he's making lemonade from them. And that was an episode there, which I think that was my first episode, and I think I've gone on to do maybe 10 or 12 of them, based on the strength of that. And as a director, much like you guys, I'm trying to eat, and I want the path that's going to lead me to the buffet table so that I can eat.
Yeah.
And I don't want to fuck around.
That's what I wanted to mention too. Being on that set with you, you were so encouraging, and I understand that's part of who you are and what you bring. And I've just been so impressed. I knew that was your first episode, but all the things you've gone on to, and it's not surprising to me because I think so much of our business is about people wanting to work with you. We become successful because other people want us to be successful because they want to work with us again. And I've seen that you've done so many great episodes. Just in the last few years, your trajectory is amazing, and I know the best is yet to come, but I do want to mention some of them. God Friended Me, NCIS New Orleans, All Rise, NCIS Hawaii, SEAL Team, Tracker, Power Book 3, Raising Canaan, Elsbeth, and NCIS. And like I say, so much more for the future, starting Criminal Minds here this week. I haven't quite said it yet, so I want to say it now. Please welcome Lionel Coleman here. And the thing about you, Lionel, I'm just so impressed with who you are as a person in terms of your preparation. You had an idea for the backstory, even though you didn't have a whole lot of time, but you were very open, and you just created a great environment for me and for everybody on the set. And I've seen some interviews with you, and I know a beginner's mindset. As we start this, the beginner's mindset is something that you embrace, and I wondered if you could just talk about how you think we should always be learning and have that beginner's mindset.
Oh my goodness, I always, at the end of my season, will look back at what I did and criticize everything, every single thing. And I worked at Nike many years ago. I started as a news cameraman, and then I went into documentaries, then documentary directing and shooting, and then I went into commercials, and I've directed and shot over 100 commercials. But we had a saying at Nike that complacency is a killer. And if you're not innovating, you're dying. And that's the mentality that I live by. Like, every single job is an opportunity to get another job or to get fired. And that hunger, I think, is what fuels me and drives me. And every off season, I'm trying to think to myself, okay, what do I need to work on now that I haven't worked on before? What do I need to learn that's going to make me better? What can I add to my toolkit? And yeah, like you said, I mean, the best ones, that's the way they think.
Yeah. And I'm just impressed. You didn't necessarily have this trajectory. You played college football, right? And is there anything about sports that you still use in terms of your training or your mindset?
Oh, definitely. I think that sports is like a great metaphor for life. I tell my kids that because you're always competing, and it's how you handle the competition. It's how you handle a victory. It's how you handle loss. I still use a lot of sports
Analogies.
yeah, all the time. Like if you win, um, you if you lose, you say little. If you win, you say less.
I like that.
And I really I admire all my fellow directors, but I'm constantly for me, they're also my competition too. And I'll watch their work, analyze them, see what I can do better. There's somewhere I'm just like, oh fuck, I'll never be able to touch that. But the whole competitive nature of this industry, sometimes it can wear some people down, but I also feel like those are the ones that aren't meant to be here as well. So that notion of just always, I follow the ABCs of life, always be closing.
Always be closing. Always be closing.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
What I want to mention too, before we get into the other things here, is people are coming from all over the country. They have a dream. I came from Kansas. I didn't know anybody. You didn't know anybody. You were a security guard.
Yep.
And I'd like to hear the beginnings for them about how you just became a cameraman, just so they know you didn't go to film school. You didn't do any of these things, and now you're doing so well.
Yeah, I think that we can all look back and see our own beginnings and our own stories and stuff, but I just don't think that I believe that the best education in film is to make them. I believe that which is worth learning can never be taught in a school. I was a security guard, but what fascinated me about that position, I had to push the button to let all the camera crews and reporters in and out all the time. And they would all come in so fired up with these, it was tapes at the time, you probably don't even know what that is. But they had these 3/4-inch tapes and they'd come running in and, open the door, scream and get upstairs to the newsroom or, rushing out with their cameras. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is super exciting. So there was a physical nature to it, and then the creative part. And that's how I started, that's how I learned to tell stories with the cameras in news, and then that went on to me being able to edit. And at the time, there were 2 separate unions, so I knew how to shoot and edit. So they would send me on a lot of foreign assignments because I started in local news and then worked my way up to CBS. And I would go to a hotel with all my shit, unpack it, set up my edit station, link up with my correspondent, wherever that happens to be, and shoot everything, come back and cut it. But that whole, I don't think storytelling ever changes, no matter what medium you use. And what I admire so much about actors and the art of acting is this story that you're telling, constantly. And, it's what you're wearing. For Gregg and our scene that we did together, it was his body language, just this sort of defeated guy, zero confidence. But I do think that we all have these great stories to tell. And at the end of the day, I think that that's truly what I am as a storyteller. I don't know how much directing sometimes I do. It's more like traffic directing when you're on set.
Yeah. But I think we always need to have full life as actors and as people, as directors. It's one of the things I like with the lessons that we teach here. You can use them in your real life because we bring our life to our work. And I just wonder, what helped you succeed that had nothing to do with directing itself, just from your upbringing, your life, your experiences?
As polished as I might seem today, I'm from East New York originally. Even if you Google and look at East New York today, it's still a dangerous place. If I hadn't left there, I would have probably been in jail or dead. But those life experiences, right? I think that any person of color, you face immense challenges that others don't face. Lots of racism, lots of being told, no, you can't. And I have a friend who's from Zimbabwe, and he told me, man, I really admire African-American people. And I'm like, why? You're black. And he's like, yeah, but I'm from Africa. He said, African-American people, they were taken from someplace, that was a home and brought here, to a foreign place. And, the years of slavery, the Jim Crow laws, the discrimination, and, you have a president now who is hell-bent on making sure that one caste of society stays down. So I think it's all of those things, that creates this amazing will to succeed. It's sort of like the salmon spawn, it's like the strongest ones make it. But, when you know that failure isn't an option, I think that you handle your business much differently. And I still, to this day, I think that way. That kind of fuels me.
Yeah, well, it does in your work, and some of your work. I like that short film you did, False Promise, though. My gosh, I watched that on your website. That just blew me away.
Yeah.
But
sex trafficking.
Oh my gosh! But the fighting. Why did you shoot that? I mean, the plight of these people. It's so important because a guy like me doesn't really recognize that stuff happens. But my gosh, watching it just it shook me.
Yeah. I from my news days, I'm still very, very into nonfiction work. And what I put into my current scripted work is really everything that I've drawn from life, and that's the thing that is so great about acting. He's from Kansas. He's going to bring some Midwestern thing, characteristic into something, something that he grew up with, someone that he knew growing up. And for me, it's the same thing. I mean, I worked in San Francisco for a lot, and I would always see these massage parlor places all the time. And I think that I went there with my friend for his bachelor party, or bachelor night, or whatever, and ended up talking to this woman who just had all these bruises on her back. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? And she couldn't talk, about it. It was all, do you want a massage or not? Because I can't be out here for that long. And I said, well, I don't have any money. But it was nice talking with you. But it just stuck in my head. And then you start to see more and more of these places, and it's like, holy shit. So that's what drove me to that. And I did another great short called These Final Hours, which is about racial biases. Another wonderful thing that unfortunately we still deal with. But yeah, I always try to find things that I feel are happening in society and in the world, and how they're affecting me, and those are the things that I'm really interested in.
Yeah, and so much I'd love to talk with you about, but I do want to find out how you got to God Friended Me. That's the one that really got you to take off, right?
Well, way back in the day, there were diversity programs that one could get into. Once again, we have an administration now that's hell-bent on getting rid of those, but I had gotten into the CBS Diversity Director Program years ago, like even before 2018 or 2019. And, I got in, they called me, they said, yeah, you're in. And I was like, great. Now what? We're going to get back in touch with you. So no one ever got back in touch with me.
Oh, wow.
So I called up and I'm like, hey, so I thought I was in this program. They said, oh, yeah, that. Well, that guy was fired for sexual harassment.
Oh my gosh.
But we're going to set you up with a new person. They'll meet with you. And I did meet with the new person. And she said, well, I don't know what we're doing with this yet, but, we'll be in touch. And that was it. So it was me sitting with my son watching a TV show. And he's like, Dad, when are you going to do stuff like that?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's a good question. So I told my wife, I said, I'm going to apply one more time and see. And I got in, and, these programs are great because you get to shadow and, see what a set is like, how the director's role on an episodic television show. But I shadowed on 4 episodes. God Friended Me was my first. Then I think I did NCIS New Orleans, then Hawaii Five-0, and then a show called FBI. And I booked an episode of God Friended Me from that shadow.
Wow.
And then right after that, I booked an episode of NCIS New Orleans right after that shadow.
Wow. And it's, it's not just because he showed up there, because his energy, the people wanted to work with him. And I just love that you've taken off. There's so much I'd love to ask you, and I want them to get a chance to ask you as well. But let's talk a little bit about casting of actors, because you're on that side of it. Scott said, at least on his show, the director gets on NCIS, the director gets to say who they're interested in, and then there's some negotiations, and you may or may not get who you want, but nevertheless, you're seeing the casting of actors all the time. What immediately captures your attention when you see a self-tape or interact with them on Zoom?
What I love about a self-tape is if it takes me someplace that I wasn't expecting. And there's some actors who kind of like, oh, this is what it says, I'm gonna do this scene just like this. And you watch them and you kind of go, and I have a star system, that I put on. So when I'm watching, if something surprises me, it could be what you're wearing, it could be a prop that you have. But I also steal a lot from these, like someone will do something or bring something or whatever, and I go, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I think I will have him wear a sombrero, whatever. But that's the very first thing that I really like is someone that takes me someplace that's not necessarily on the page. And that is huge, for all of us, because, writers, they'll write something, but they don't truly know how good it's going to be until you guys perform it, and if you perform it like it's on the page, sometimes it's like,
Yeah, anybody could have done that.
Yeah,
that's great.
Nothing.
Great for us to hear. How important is authenticity as opposed to bold choices for you when you're watching an actor?
That's a good question. I had someone audition, I think that they were from a different country, and they were holding a gun, and they obviously don't have guns in that country, and you're looking at that, it's like the Keystone Cops, and it was just, it kind of ruined the audition for me, because it's like, okay, if you're taking the time to audition for something, know a little bit about what that person does, come with your own story behind that. And I don't think a lot of people do that enough, where they kind of dive a little bit deeper into what the role is, if it's a, janitor or whatever. And I also love it when people dress in a character, too. That's something that immediately sets the mood, right? And the other thing that I love is when you know the material, because some people, believe it or not, they'll be reading and looking down. I'm not coming out yet until you send me the code. And then, looking down, and it's sort of like, if you knew the material, it would have been better.
Yeah, and what I hear you saying is about commitment. So there's a commitment that the actor is showing, that they're really interested. I remember there was a show, when I first moved out here, it was called Out of This World, syndicated, but I had a great guest star role for it, and I read for it, and it was multiple scenes, and it almost became a series regular. But I remember reading for it, and I had no experience. But the casting director and the producers later said, well, you wanted it more than anybody else. Everybody else came in half-hearted, didn't really do the commitment. You came in 100% committed. So that seems like a very important thing for you as you're watching their work.
Yeah, if that's the adjective to go with, for sure. And within that commitment, it's like you're all in, for it. And once again, if you think of the people on the other side, like, we're all in this together, and I try to tell all of my actors, like, without you, I'm nothing. Without the guy who wrote it, the gal who wrote it, we're nothing. Without the cinematographer shooting it, we're nothing. Like, we all have to partner together and be amazing in this space at that time. And if you think about that, I don't know, to me it registers like, if I'm shooting that, nobody's going to watch that. If I'm shooting you against that, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. What's he going to do? So I think the quicker you learn that it's really a partnership, the better. And that's how I treat it. That's how I treat all of my actors. There's just such an integral part of the process.
What is it about an actor, though, that makes you, that they earn your trust quickly, that you go, okay, well, I can trust them. They know what they're doing.
Sometimes, like, if it's a simple note or an adjustment, some actors will do it the exact same way, again, but just say it louder, Like that's a trick that I've seen. It's like, oh, okay. It's louder, but it was the same. Or present an idea to me.
Yeah.
I'm not a director that's like, oh no, keep your ideas to yourself. I'm like uber collaborative.
Yeah. That's what I did, when I was talking about what my real feeling was for that woman.
Yeah.
I shared it with you and you go, oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So,
And I really like that. Just be malleable. In the words of Bakula, know your material, but just know that, like he talked about a verb that we're going to talk about today, which is listening. You'd be surprised at how many actors just aren't listening. They're just kind of, okay, after they say this word, I'm going to say my line, and it's super frustrating. It's got to be frustrating for you as actors too, when there's no place to go, because that term acting is reacting, right? And to a large extent, I'm reacting off of what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And if it's not believable, then I know I have to go again. And going again, if it's still not believable, I got to find the person that is believable and make sure I'm doing more coverage on them.
Yeah, right. It's very interesting because you are going to edit to somebody who's doing something, right?
Absolutely. And if I have to bring you back in for an ADR session, to fix something, and I don't have you to, saying that line on camera, it's going to be in a wider shot, or I'm looking at your co-star. But yeah, that's kind of what I absolutely love. There's a woman that I work with, Carrie Preston, on Elsbeth, who's one of the finest in the business. I was doing a scene with her, and on take two, like the showrunner said, hey, make sure you do it this way. This is the way I want it. So on take two, she goes, hey, Lionel, I think I'm going to be more like definitive about ending this relationship. I think you should probably have that, just to have it. And I'm like, okay, the showrunner, I have my instructions, so that's what I'm going to yield to. And she does it. And then in the edit, I'm like, holy shit. We used one from another in which she wasn't, and then another in which she was definitive. And it's like, man, that really worked there. And that's the thing that you guys should know is that with the television schedule, we're usually going to do 2 takes. We're going to do a master, and I may not do 2 takes in the master because we don't stay in masters for too long. But the coverage is always going to be, okay, you're going to do 2, you're going to do 2, over, whatever. So within that 2 takes, that's your time to play, and I'll kind of gauge the actor. I had a guy who was super nervous, and one of the series regulars said, hey, let's do my coverage first and give him a chance to kind of get into this, which we did. He still required like 3, but we were able to work through some things. But most of that is just me being like a great cheerleader, like, oh my God, I loved it, even though it sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, which is so great. I mean, but that's so important. I remember hearing this phrase, I'm not who I think I am not who you think I am who I think you think I am.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And if you come in and they think, oh, Lionel liked what I did, well, okay. And then I relax, and then I start doing better work. I want to get to the questions here in a second, but I am interested, I think people would be interested to hear, you're doing Criminal Minds next week?
I'm prepping now.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to hear what your preparation is and the casting and that whole thing from your perspective.
Yes, Criminal Minds, interesting show. I think it's been on like 20 seasons. It's called Evolution now, but it was Criminal Minds. Now it's Criminal Minds Evolution. But when I land, well, they gave me my script super early. I've had it for like maybe 2 weeks now, so which is great because sometimes I'll get it on the way to a place. They're supposed to give it to me like 24 hours before I start prep, but it doesn't always happen like that. But my first day is just meetings. I'll do kind of like an overall, they call it a concept meeting, where the first AD goes through the entire script and all departments are usually present. And then, I might do a wardrobe meeting, that time if we're available. But usually casting is, I think I did my casting meeting even before I started prep. They said, hey, do you want to do a casting meeting before you even start prep? And technically that's illegal, but I ain't saying anything. It gets me ahead. So I did a casting concept meeting, just talked about the roles, If I have any ideas of people, I can suggest them to the casting agents, which is great. That's a time where I can kind of throw in some of my ringers that I like, and kind of make a plan from there. I'll location scout. Today, I was visiting the set a lot, kind of trying to figure out how I'm going to shoot this. I ran into a couple of the stars of the show today, so my first AD introduces me to them, and I always have a pre-planned speech for each of them, because I do a little bit of background checking on them as well. Like Joe Mantegna, he's like the star of the show, and he's just been around forever, so I knew my first line to him was going to be, Joe Mantegna, as I live and breathe, and I said that, same line. So I rehearse a little bit.
Gotta have your lines.
Yeah.
Gotta have your lines.
So, but and then tomorrow's Friday.
Thursday.
Oh, thank the Lord. These days seem to go by so fast. But I'm also doing something which is very important to me, is I'm shot listing, which is for every scene. These are the setups and shots that I want to be able to get to be able to tell the story of the scene. But I think I've read the script now maybe 5 or 6 times. I'm like micro needling through it, right now, just kind of picking apart things. And today I found a little bit of dialogue that didn't make sense, so I asked the writer if she would consider changing some things around. So, but yeah, that's kind of mostly what it's about. I think I might have a tech scout on Friday. We're only going to one location, but we're going 2 days. So that's, kind of a very important time, because I have all the department heads with me, and, we go through, look at the location. I tell them, here's what I'm planning on shooting. I want the light to look like this. I'm going to need to close down this whole street. So they'll ask me oftentimes, do you need ITC, which is intermittent traffic control, or do you want the street? And I say, okay, I want the street, so that's going to be more money.
I see.
How many cop cars I want out there, all that kind of stuff. But it's a lot of busy work.
Yeah.
A director, whereas you guys think about a piece of the pie,
Right.
which is so great to be able to just like hone in and focus on that. I have to be 30,000 feet looking at all of it, including the seasoning and how much time it's going to be in the oven, and all of those things. So, but yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so great to hear that perspective, though. As actors, we think so much about what we're doing or our audition, and they got so many things going on. Let's have a few questions. Anybody have a question for Lionel? Yeah, Ethan?
Director and everything, so easy.
Listen to that voice. I thought
Isn't that great? I was hoping to borrow it.
I thought he had a mic on. What's your name?
I do. My name is Ethan Henry.
Ethan?
Ethan Henry, yeah.
Oh, it's not my son's name.
Oh, nice. You talked about verbs, so when is that kind of like when you read the script, or that you get ready to work on? Do you say, "This is my verb for this script. I'm trying to do something"?
It'll be more like a verb for each scene. If I need to throw that in, because I know you guys like that, working with a verb. And Gregg will tell you, my communications with you, once we're there and shooting, I like to be very clear and concise. I don't like to go on for minutes, but a good verb I think is great. And in every scene, you should want something. This person that you're with should want something. Shouldn't be the same thing. And as long as we can have that conflict there, then that's great. But sometimes I do have to, when I first got started, I would say, "Oh, this should be more intense." It's like, oh, what the fuck does that mean?
And then they play intense.
Yeah.
Right.
But when you learn a verb, you could say, "Hey, demand this from them," and I don't ever give an actor a note that another actor hears. I always will pull them aside, whisper in their ear that's specific for them.
That's great. Who else? Yep.
What position did you play?
Wide receiver. You look like you're in shape, man. Did you play football?
Yeah,
Okay, well, I was much bigger back then.
Oh,
So I said that
jeez. How tall are you?
I'm 6'2". I was
Oh,
like
okay.
230 back then. I'm 1.5 now.
Wow.
I was the water boy.
That's what I should have done.
All right, who else? Yeah, Karina?
You mentioned that when you receive audition takes, normally how many of them do you receive? Because I know the first takes goes to Mr. Kennedy, the casting director, and he forwards it to you, or do you get all the auditions all together?
No, it seems like they do a cut down.
They cut down. Okay.
Yeah, of them. There's a casting agent in New York, Finley, who's an amazing casting agent. But when I cast for Elsbeth, it's like days. It's like, oh my God. You got to be like in there because these people are good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you guys aren't good.
New York is.
And I'm not even saying that, but theater actors, which is who she's pulling from a lot of the times, it hits different. So, and for me, I'm someone that because you've given your time to do an audition, I watch that audition.
Not just 4 seconds, right?
No. I go through and I watch it because I don't know, your first one, you could have done this, your second one, you could have done this, or, somewhere in there you said this and it sort of like rang for me differently. But I'm someone who watches them all. But yeah, I think that, maybe Jason cuts them down, I think. Maybe because I've, no, everybody who I ask for, he always puts them into the mix. And he puts this asterisk next to him. Lionel asked for him. So like, I'm on the hook if you guys don't do your thing. Like, Lionel, what the fuck were you thinking, man?
But, the breakdown for NCIS has, 15 characters, sometimes 10. How many of those do they send? 5 for each character or 10 for each character?
No, I get like a healthy dose. Like,
wow.
it takes me a minute,
Yeah.
To get through everybody. And Scott Williams is the same way. He's a pro. We all, like Scott was an actor at first. So he has a lot of respect for the process, as do I. And more of what I have a respect for is the amount of time, your time that takes. You're working a job. Like my daughter was kind of dabbling in acting, and I was, shooting some of her audition. Can't say tape anymore.
Yeah.
But I was filming some of her auditions, and my wife would be like, "Okay, you got to be easy on her." You can't be like, "Mr. Director." And but it takes time. She would come over before class or something like that. Do one early in the morning. Come later after class. And it's like, I respect the fact that this is your time that you're taking to do that. So I watch everything.
Yeah, I love that, Lionel. One more. Let's see. Charles.
Thank you for coming. Kind of to piggyback off Karina's line about casting and auditions, right? When it comes to building a tape and building an atmosphere as an actor, how do you feel about those actors that sometimes may go off a little bit off script or may not have it fully off book, but they created the atmosphere for that moment?
Very good question. On Raising Kanan, Sasha Penn was a nut for if there's an and you swap that out and said "and" without putting the D on it. It was like, a felony. And you guys have probably heard Aaron Sorkin. He's very word perfect. And I shadowed on the West Wing, and I can say that, he was everything that's on that page better come out of your mouth. For me, there's just some roles that kind of call for it, and there's some times in which I will encourage you to, it's like, hey, I know the scene ends here, but it feels like you have more to say, go ahead and say it as they're taking you away, or as you're driving away, turn back and say something out of the car, that's not there. I just love it when actors are in that moment, and you are no longer acting, but you're doing. And sometimes what comes out of your mouth is just like better than any words that you could have ever written. So that's me personally. I enjoy that. That to me is kind of part of your craft.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think causes somebody to have longevity in this business? You've seen some actors that have been here for a long time and some come and go. I know some of it's luck, certainly, but there's also talent and tenacity. But what have you noticed about actors that last?
From my perspective, I don't ever depend on my agent or manager to get me anything. I am always working the room myself, so to speak. And there's some actors that I'll work with, and it's like we have a great relationship. Oh, that was great. It'd be great to work with you again. Then I don't ever hear from them. Nothing. And I think that that's a little bit of a mistake. Obviously, your on-set persona has to be dialed in. Like, people have to like you.
Right.
Man, Gregg came. He was prepared. He knew his shit. We threw some other things at him. He just rolled with it. And those are great attributes to have. And I think that, if you go back to the ABCs of it all, just always be closing.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the person that is going to work all the time. And I'll tell all of you this, if you depend on your agent and manager for everything, I just think that it's a tragic mistake. I trust my career in my hands better than I trust it in the hands of someone else.
Yeah.
And and Gregg, he finished. I think you might have followed me on Instagram. I'm not really a big Instagram guy, but we kind of stayed in touch. I don't know if you ever had my email. I don't know how we did it, but say what's up. I see stuff that you're working on, things that you're doing, and we just sort of always stayed in touch. He's somebody that I know I could trust. Like, if I said, I need a 90-year-old man in a walker who stutters every other, he'd put himself on tape and he'd be that guy, and you'd be like, God damn, that's Gregg. He's not 90. I don't think he's in a walker, but everyone would buy that and believe it. And as a director, man, I just want to work tomorrow. Coaches of sports teams, there's a reason why they play a certain amount of people the most, because they know that it's like, man, I want a job next year. I want a new contract. So that's who's playing today.
Yeah. Well, it's such an honor to have you here, and I know the students are excited to do a few scenes here.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Enough about me. Jeez, I'm boring.
You're so busy. I love that you took the time here. So once again,
He was hounding me.
What a great night we had with Lionel Coleman. I thank him so much for coming and working with the students. If you want to learn more about him, go to lionelcoleman.com, or you can check him out on Instagram, or just tune in to any CBS drama. It seems he's directing all of them. And if you're interested in classes here, come to North Hollywood and audit the class any Wednesday night. We'd love to see you here. Best of luck, whatever you're working on, keep working. That's what we do right here in the Working Actors Workshop.